So I really think that the iPad is the most overrated product Apple has in existence. And let's get into the reasons why I think that. Now, I want to get this out of the way. I do not by any means think that the iPad is a terrible product in and of itself. By itself, the product is a great device for a decent price on its own. But when you compare it to all the other devices that we have, like iPhones and MacBooks, and AirPods and Apple Watches, the iPad is kind of in limbo and it doesn't really fit in the Apple ecosystem. And the first thing is that the iPad is not really a portable device. It's marketed as a portable device, but you can't fit this in your pocket like an iPhone or AirPods or an Apple Watch. If you have enough space for an iPad, you probably have enough space for a MacBook, which are very thin and light these days. And the iPad is pretty much a device that is going to stay at home, so it's not really a mobile product. Next, there is no killer app that the iPad is exclusively used for. I'm going to stick to the saying that the iPad is just a giant iPhone with iPhone apps, and literally all the apps available on the iPhone, 99% of them are available on the iPad, and there is no one app that I could think of or that I use that is only perfected just for the iPad. If you were to get this device, even at its lowest price point of $450 for the most basic iPad, I really feel that unless you have an Android phone or you don't have an iPhone, you're really just adding more money to use the same type of apps, because there's no killer app. Even when the iPad was first launched, it was marketed more as a magazine type of device. You sit on a couch, you relax, and you swipe through pictures and watch videos. It's a consumption device. And if you already have an iPhone with the bigger screens, the iPad really does not have a killer app. There's no real reason to have it unless you just want an extra device and pay extra money for. And if you want to get work done, the iPad cannot be a MacBook or laptop replacement. It does not have a proper desktop. It doesn't have the proper drag and drop support, and it doesn't have a keyboard built in. That's the real reason that the Mac and any other laptop or MacBook, that's the reason we have them, and the iPad cannot compete with that. So if you want to use this for work, it's not going to work out. No matter how many accessories you put with it, you add the Apple Pencil, there's no way to get this as a Mac replacement, and you cannot work with it to get real work done. And now that I've mentioned the Apple Pencil, it goes back to when Steve Jobs first introduced the iPhone. He hated the idea of using a stylus with the screen. Your finger is good enough, and the iPad, which the Apple Pencil is exclusive for, it doesn't work with iPhones. It's the same thing. Unless you're an artist, the Apple Pencil does not add any real value to the iPad. Again, it makes it, why do we have this device? It really doesn't do much. And if you want that Apple Pencil and the accessories with the keyboard and all that stuff, it's just going to cost you more, and it's going to drive up the price. So that just makes it a more expensive device that you don't need. Next, nothing has really changed over the years with the iPad. Yes, they've gotten less bezels, you got more screen. They've added over the years Touch ID, then Face ID. They added the iPad Pro to the lineup with more powerful chips. But the basic idea stands, is that if you were to get the base model iPad or the most expensive iPad Pro, without the accessories or anything like that, it feels like it hasn't changed at all since the first iPad in 2010. And that's a big issue, because this device, it literally does not add a lot of value to your life if you already have an iPhone and a Mac. So you're pretty much just, paying for little additions that make it slightly better, but the general use case of the iPad is still worthless today as it was in 2010. The next thing that makes the iPad so overrated is that there's too many iPads being sold by Apple. It is so confusing. When you want to buy an iPad, they sell so many different models at different sizes with the Pro moniker, the base iPad, iPad Air, iPad Pro, the big one. I mean, there's just so many of them, and it doesn't make any sense because this product really doesn't do much. Even the iPhone, that is the most popular product, doesn't have that many models attached like the iPad. There's just too much stuff going on for a product that doesn't do much more than an iPhone, and it definitely doesn't do the same things that a MacBook can do. So yeah, this is when Steve Jobs first came back to Apple after getting fired. He came back, and one of the first things he did was he cut a lot of the extra products out and made it where it was Pro and consumer. And here we have too many models to choose from, and for a product that is basically just a content consuming device, there's just too many of them, and it kind of just dilutes the iPad experience. I personally do not have a use case for an iPad. I feel it's just a giant iPhone, and if you want to get anything meaningful done on it that you can't do on an iPhone, you have to grab a real laptop with a keyboard and a desktop experience with drag and drop and Windows. The iPad cannot do anything on its own besides being a consumption device to watch movies, browse the web, but not really work with the web. And also, it is terrible for typing out for long periods of time. Also, it might be good for if you want to give it to a child for short periods of time, because it's not as expensive as an iPhone and they probably won't lose it. But other than that, yeah, this is a very casual device, and in most cases, I think it's just an extra device people will throw their money on, and it really won't change the experience if you already have an iPhone and a MacBook. So that's been my take on why the iPad is Apple's most overrated product.